Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back. This is Gil Elhart with UNC Hoops Talk podcast and YouTube. And so this is the day after podcast, if you will, for the Gardner-Webb match that UNC won 77-61. Forgive me, I'm a soccer fan, so I use the term match there. It was an interesting game. Gardner-Webb, I think, came ready to play. And it's not that UNC didn't come ready to play, they most certainly did. And it was a good contest for the first, 3 quarters of the game in terms of a competitive game. It wasn't exactly pretty in the first half, so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that here in just a moment. So overall, we're excited to be 3-0 on the season and get another nice victory, get some experience and an opportunity for the team to gel and work together and build that chemistry, which is, of course, one of the issues with the young team, the new players that UNC has on their roster this season. So let me go ahead and break it down a little bit, and at the end I'll look forward just a little bit to what we have coming up on the schedule here for UNC Hoops. So I think that it was a very slow start, pretty obvious. It was like 2-0 going into the first TV timeout, and it was just like, where is the offense? And we heard the statement from Roy before the season that this team may be offensively challenged to a degree, and we saw that. We certainly saw that, just a struggle to try and get the ball in the basket. And it wasn't that we didn't have open looks. Actually, we had really good looks for the most part, and we just weren't knocking down shots. So I trust that will come. I'm not panicking about this team. I believe that we've got a lot going for us, and it's just, this is what the non-conference season is about. It's about developing that chemistry. It's about working together and starting to learn the system, because we have just so many new players learning the system, whether they be freshmen or those grad transfers. So here's a couple of the notes that I took down. I think that we had strong defense in addition to that sluggish offensive start. The defense is really, really strong, and that was a really good sign, because I think defense wins championships. I think Roy really believes in that mantra, that defense wins championships, and I think he's trying to instill that in this team, and I think that can help carry this team a long way. So I'm excited about that, seeing that offense, seeing that defense being so solid this early in the season is a good sign. And especially from Cole Anthony. This is the first time I'll mention his name, but it certainly won't be the last, because just what a great player we have on our hands. And his defense was just phenomenal. He might have gotten beat off the first step a couple times, but he recovers so quickly, and he just makes it really, really challenging for the opposing offense. It's hard for them to get into the flow of their offense, hard to get into their rhythm. The other things I noted was that Justin Pierce, we need him to be a scorer. Basically, I had a big note here, who's with Cole? And Jordan Cornette, one of the broadcasters that night, was talking about that, like, who's the second guy, who's with him? And I really feel like Justin Pierce could potentially be that guy. Maybe not every single night, but a good percentage of the nights we can use the extra scoring from Justin Pierce. And I think that he is going to deliver that. I think that he's getting accustomed to the system. I think that he's starting to, mesh and gel with the other players. And so I like the potential there. Would like to see that scoring more from him. Also, I'd like to see Leaky Black be much more aggressive offensively. I do think that, for Leaky Black, it's kind of like he's at the tail end of his freshman season, as I mentioned in my preseason podcast about each player. He missed so much time last year that it's like he didn't quite have that full freshman year, so he's finishing out that freshman year, and he's being asked to do a lot more from Roy. He's asked to do so much more in terms of playing different positions. So I think that we will see the progress there as well. Like I said, there's nothing from this game that causes me to panic, and yet I did see some things that were of concern. I did see some flaws in this team that could rear their ugly head come March, but I hope not. We need to run more. We need to get out on fast break. I was actually somewhat surprised to see at the end of the game in the box score that we ended up getting 22 or 23 fast break points. Checking that stat real quick. So that's good, but it just seemed like, where is this coming from? It wasn't happening in the first half, that's for sure. And I know that's a big part of Roy Williams' offense, is to get out, beat the other team before they get their defense set. And so we did manage to do that much better in the second half, but in the first half, it was just not happening. And it comes back to that defense being our best offense, which is atypical for this time of the season especially, but it's really, really good to see that intensity. And as I mentioned, feeding off of Cole. Also, Leaky Black, super solid defensively. He just gets his hands out there. He's so long. He gets his hands in the passing lanes, and he's able to create steals or deflections that disrupt the other team's offense, in this case, Gardner-Webb, obviously. So one other thing about the first half, we needed everything we got from Armando Bacot. With our offense just struggling, it was great to see him show some of his skill set on the offensive interior, and he showed me some really good signs moving forward that he's a little more polished than most other big freshmen at that stage of their career. So I think that he can be something special this year, and be a big time player for us come those big games in March. I made a little note about the ACC network, annoying just a little bit. They're working out some of their bugs. I forget, it was in the middle of a play, and all of a sudden my screen just like totally cut out to like test screen or something like that. And Jordan Cornett, again, one of the broadcasters, one of the announcers for the game, I feel like his microphone was in and out or something. I had no problem hearing the other guy, but I had a little trouble hearing him. So there's just some bugs with the ACC network. I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I'm able to access and watch these games. It's a bummer if you haven't been able to watch them, but just a little annoyed. Things seemed to be fine before with ESPN3, but now with this ACC network, they're working out some of those kinks. I'm going to give them a little bit more patience, but I'm already making a note of that. So I just think back to the first half, back to the game. The first half, it was really noticeable how inexperienced this team was in the system that Roy Williams wants them to play. But I think that they're going to get that again. No reason to panic this early in the season. That's why we have games against Elon, which we have coming up Wednesday night. But then we're going to get a big step up in competition going into the battle for Atlantis with Alabama that we'll see first there. So right at the end of the first half, this was a really, really good sign for all Tar Heel fans. We saw Christian Keeling score an easy bucket, or a couple easy buckets, I believe. And that was huge, because I just feel like that took a big pressure off of his shoulders that he was probably putting on himself, and allowed him to see a bigger basket in the second half. I still think that we will see improved gameplay from him moving forward. We'll see better percentage shooting from him moving forward. He's just getting used to the system, getting in the flow, getting adjusted to the pace of playing in ACC basketball. But I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to be a key contributor for us. I had a side note thought about Sterling Manley when Armando Bacot got pulled by Roy Williams because he kept bringing the ball down, getting the ball stripped, and just in general, like our offense struggling. We know Garrison Brooks provides so much for this team, and I think he had kind of an off night and yet still affected the game. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I was listening to another podcast that was really surprised with his 5 assists. I am not. I believe that there was a game last year where he had 5 or more. I feel like he might even had 8 in a game last year. He's a good interior passer, and as him and Armando start to get in rhythm with one another, I think that we might even see that assist number be very steady at that number when they work that high-low game. So I'm excited for that, and I'm sure Roy is excited for that, finally having 2 bigs back in his system. But it would be really, really nice to have Sterling Manley. He's just much more polished, although we haven't seen him in a Carolina uniform for the longest time, seen him in his suit for God knows how long. He just has a little bit more offensive skills and tenacity than Brandon Huffman. Brandon Huffman came in and just didn't provide as much as I was hoping that we might see from him. He's still just a big work in progress. He's a big body. He can spell Bacot and potentially Brooks for a few minutes, but just not really adding much to the offensive flow, sadly. So it would really be nice to have a healthy, 100% healthy Sterling Manley who's back ready in game shape. So that was the first half synopsis for me. In the second half, right early, I think we had a pass coming off a screen to Keeling, who just swished the jumper, and that was really sweet to see him finally getting it going. I mentioned that Cole Anthony was playing awesome defense. We talked about this a little bit, that if he's just a little bit off, what happens to the offensive flow of the team, and when he's on the bench, certainly the team looks a bit lost without him. His shot selection overall for the evening, probably not his best night, probably a night a little bit to forget. And overall, his night was not one of his best, and yet he still scored 28 points and still led the team to victory. And that just is an extremely reassuring thing for Carolina basketball, that we have this guy on our team, that even on an off night from not just him, but other players, that this guy can put us on his back and carry us. And we don't want to rely on that necessarily, of course. We can't expect that he's going to pull us to victory every single time, but man, he's the type of player that certainly can do it and is already proving that here in his young career. He was so frustrated at missing a couple free throws, and he missed those free throws a little bit earlier in the amount, and he ended up shooting 13 free throws in the night and made 11 of them, which is obviously, we'll take that every night. But early on, he had missed a couple after having a poor free throw performance at UNC Wilmington, and I was like, oh man, is this a concern? Overall, the free throws need to be better from the Tar Heels, but Cole Anthony most certainly took care of business there, the charity stripe himself. And it was an interesting strategy to see Gardner Webb continue to foul him late in the game. It didn't work out for them, and I'm not sure why they were employing that strategy, but anyway, we'll take it. It was good to see Leaky Black get more aggressive in the second half, and he had great hands defensively. Once again, getting the passing lanes, creating steals, creating problems defensively. So quite the contrast first half to second half. We shot 10%, 1 of 10 from three-point range in the first half. Thank goodness in the second half we got it going a bit better. We shot 62.5%, 5 of 8. For a total of 6 of 18 and 33.3% from the game. Not bad. We'd like to see those shots go in early. We don't want to fall behind early to better competition. And that's not to take anything away from Gardner Webb. I think they were a solid defensive team. You might have forgot that this was a team that led Virginia in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year, had Virginia scared, and ultimately the Cavaliers came out on top in that one. But this is a good team. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gardner Webb make it to the NCAA tournament again. And I think that they showed some prowess defensively that threw us off a little bit, but we had good looks and we just weren't hitting them. So here are my notes about some of the demons that I was a little bit concerned about, that I think that Roy will most certainly get corrected. This is, again, not a panic, but just some things that I'm like, okay, this is how we could get beat. If Cole is having an off night, maybe he's not hitting his free throws, maybe he has foul trouble, some things that we've seen here early in the season. Where's that second scoring option? We have a limited scoring option. If that scoring option doesn't show up on that night, like say we become more dependent on Justin Pierce, and he just doesn't have his night. Garrison Brooks gets into foul trouble that we saw here against Gardner Webb. And then not enough fast break points, not getting out and running. And I think second chance points was also a bit low. I think ultimately we ended up with 14, which I'm sure Roy would like to see a lot more, considering that we ended up almost 2 for 1 on the rebounding advantage, 44 to their 23 at the end of the game. I'd like to see those second chance points increase. And then a high volume of turnovers. Again, I'm not panicking about any of this. The turnovers I expect in a Roy Williams offense with this many new players to the system this early in the season. But nonetheless, they are a little bit alarming just because we hate to see them. And it's like, come on, some of them, when it's just an easy errant throw. I hate when an inbounds pass after a made bucket by the opposite team gets stolen for an immediate layup. We saw that in the first half. Just a little miscommunication between Garrison Brooks and Cole Anthony. So these are things that I know they will get worked out. But nonetheless, these are some of the things that I'm sure Roy Williams and his staff are noting, is making sure that they're getting this team ready to run more, beat the other team's defense down the floor. Protect Cole Anthony in terms of fouls, continue to get everybody involved in the offense, Leaky Black more aggressive, Justin Pierce more assertive, and I think we're going to be just fine. But nonetheless, I just saw some of those things that could be a concern going up against a good competition. In the second half, we continue to see Bacot showing off his offensive aplomb. He needs to be a little bit stronger with the ball, keep it up high so he doesn't get stripped when he brings it down low, especially against these smaller teams that don't have the height, that don't have the bodies like Armando Bacot. He's gifted in terms of his size. He needs to take advantage of that size, especially against these teams that don't have the height to match. Keep the ball high, go up strong, don't lose that possession. There was, he ultimately had a solid game, 12 points, 11 rebounds, first double-double in a Carolina uniform. Congratulations, Armando. I thought it was a solid game, but yet we know it could be better. He knows it could be better. Roy Williams knows it could be better, and he pointed it out to him. And so I think Roy Williams is really riding him, pushing him to be the best that he can be, which is ultimately going to help the Tar Heels excel and live up to their highest potential. Again, with Cole not on the floor, we got to figure out how to stay cohesive. We got to figure out how to mesh together, continue to put points on the board, and just not look lost in general. But man, what an amazing player Cole is. He's just, Hubert Davis said this, and this is, Hubert Davis has played with some of the best players, including Cole's father in the NBA for the New York Knicks. And just, we have an amazing point guard. Hubert said he's the most amazing, most talented point guard he's ever seen. And we definitely have that, despite the fact that he's, obviously leading the team in scoring. And I expect that will be the case throughout the season. He still keeps the offensive rhythm flowing. He's distributing the ball, looking to help other players, looking to get his teammates involved. And the ball doesn't just stay with him. Of course, late in a shot clock situation, he's looking to find his shot. And what an impressive shot he hit with two defenders on him late in the shot clock there in the middle of the second half. That was just a sweet, sweet play. So it was exciting to see Cole continue to do what he does, and I just had the utmost confidence in that kid to lead us. So we came out super strong in the second half, but then about midway through, almost to the midway point, we let them get back in. We let them get back in the game midway through the second. So I'd like to see us develop that killer instinct of just putting teams down, particularly, teams that are inferior competition. Like, don't even let them have any bit of a chance or a little bit of hope of getting it close again. And just keep them, under pressure the whole time. And I think it was at that point, and we went into a timeout, the under 12 timeout, that we really started to instill Carolina principles. We picked up the pace. I could just sense it. We picked up the pace. We started sharing the ball. Ball was moving, and we were getting out on the break. And that's probably where the fast break points came from, was in that phase, which was the key phase of the game, when I think we got up, I forget what our lead was, but then they closed it to 5, and then we just put the foot on the gas pedal and really just took charge. That was the key stretch of the game, and that's where we took advantage of our talent. So for the game, in the first half, we shot 41.4%, and in the second half, 50% for 45.6% overall. Not bad. Obviously, we'd love to see that over 50%. They just were not hitting those shots in the first half. But credit to Keeling and Playtech, who missed some early threes, missed some open looks. They started attacking the rim, started going to the basket. They got a couple easier shots to go in, and that helps you build your confidence. And sure enough, that led to them hitting those looks in the second half, hitting those three-pointers. As I mentioned, we were 1 for 10 from three-point range in the first half. That was just brutal. That was ugly. But thank God we got it going on. Found our stroke in the second half, 62.5% for 33.3% for the game. Free throws, we were 83.3% in the first half, 73.7% in the second, which was a total of 76%. Not bad, but definitely want to see the guys continue to work on that. And I'm hearing that they are putting up lots of free throws after games and in practice, post-practice. So we took advantage and dominated on the rebounding statistics, 44-23. I heard 16 turnovers, but as I'm looking at the box score, 18. So love to see that number get down to 10 as we start to find our chemistry and work together. And I think that we will definitely see that. I'm seeing more positive, although I did note some of the demons that could be a flaw for us in big games potentially. I see so many positive signs. I'm super excited about this team, but the competition is going to get a lot more fierce quickly. We got Elon on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We beat them very handily last year at Elon. I see no problem in this game. It's a great opportunity. We might even see B-Rob. I don't know. He dressed for this game, so I'm not sure when we'll see him back. I know someone commented on the live feed when we'll see B-Rob back. So hopefully soon. Elon, potentially, I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting minutes. And then I expect that he will be back for the Battle for Atlantis. And so let me pull up when that Battle for Atlantis is. So Wednesday's game against Elon is at 8:30 p.m. the Dean Smith Center, and then the following Wednesday. So then we got a week before our matchup with Alabama, and that's a tip time of 2:30 against Alabama there in the Bahamas. So it's going to be a big time step of a competition. Potentially we could see Gonzaga in the final there. So we got to be ready. We got to work out some of these kinks, and I expect that we will. So I'm super excited to move towards the holidays and see college basketball picking up even more. Cole Anthony, definitely our team leader, gets us going on the defensive end on Friday night against Gardner-Webb to help lead us to victory, ultimately with a game-high 28 points. And he's averaging something like 27 points per game on the season. Tar Heels 3-0. That's what we wanted. That's how we want to start the season. But more importantly, what we want to see is the progress. And I'm sure that's what Roy is most looking at, and his staff at this point, is what is the process? Are the guys starting to understand the principles? And it looked to me like things were starting to click a lot more there in the second half against Gardner-Webb. And hopefully we'll see that continue to progress against Elon, getting us set up just right in time for better competition, Big Five, Power Five conference competition there in the Bahamas. So that's all I got today. Thanks for signing on the live feed. It's good to see you guys. This is Gil Elhart with UNC Hoops Talk podcast. Go Heels.